And a Nigerian designer seeks to challenge norms with gender-fluid fashion. World of Africa, at these times, only on WION. World is One.
Hello and welcome. Thanks for joining us. You're watching Gravitas. My name is Priyanka Sharma. Here's our show for tonight. Things are going from bad to worse in the Red Sea. And time and again, one country has come to the rescue of distressed sailors. One country is repeatedly proving to be the only reliable security provider in the dangerous waters. I'm talking about India. A lot has happened in the last 24 hours. Houthi missiles have killed sailors at sea. The Indian Navy has carried out yet another daring operation. The story begins with a ship named True Confidence. It is owned by a company that is registered in Liberia. The ship is operated by Greece-based 3rd January Maritime. But the ship sails under the flag of Barbados. On the 6th of March, True Confidence was some 93 kilometers off the Yemeni port of Aden. It was carrying steel from China to Jeddah in Saudi Arabia. That's when True Confidence came under a deadly attack. The ship was struck by a Houthi missile. Its bridge and cargo caught fire. There were over 20 crew members on board. There were 15 Filipino sailors, 4 Vietnamese and 1 Indian. The ship also had 3 armed guards. 2 of them were from Sri Lanka and 1 from Nepal. 2 crew members died. Both were from the Philippines. The crew was forced to abandon ship and seek refuge in a raft. These men were scared, and they were out in the open sea. Their ship was on fire. That's when India came to their rescue. The Indian Navy's INS Kolkata rescued the crew members. The Indian Navy deployed helicopters and boats. The Indian Navy ensured that the distressed crew received the necessary medical aid in good time. The men were then evacuated to Djibouti. It was yet another selfless act by the Indian Navy. Earlier today, the US Central Command posted about this ship on X. It mentioned that coalition warships are responding to the crisis, but didn't know how. But what we have here are visuals of the Indian Navy rescuing the distressed crew in high seas. Reports say that 1 American ship was present at the scene. Where was the rest of the Western Armada? Where were the members of Operation Prosperity Guardian? Why weren't they guarding the waters from Houthi fire? Houthis are a Yemen-based and Iran-backed rebel group. And like most of you already know, Houthis have pledged to fight alongside Hamas in this war. Take a look. In the last few months, Houthis and American troops have come face to face multiple times. Houthis attacked ships in the Red Sea. American troops and allies bombed Houthi assets in Yemen. They hit weapons and missile storage facilities. They destroyed radars, helicopters and air defense systems. In return, the Houthis attacked more ships. US allies then bombed more Houthi installations. This has been going on for a while now. So far, the Houthis have launched over 45 missile and drone attacks on ships, both commercial and naval. Earlier this week, the Houthis also reportedly targeted the USS Acne. It is America's Arleigh-Burke-class destroyer. But why True Confidence? The ship's owner and operator swear that the vessel had no US connection whatsoever, so why was this vessel attacked? Well, some reports say the ship was previously owned by Oaktree Capital Management. It is a Los Angeles-based fund. The Houthis have now tried to justify the attack. Here's a line from the Houthi statement. The targeting operation came after the ship's crew rejected warning messages from the Yemeni naval forces. You see, there's no doubt that this fatal attack marks a significant escalation in the ongoing war at sea. The bigger question here is, what next? Will the Philippines join the US-led task force now that its nationals have died at sea? Will the US send a strong message to the Houthis now that the rebel group has killed civilians at sea? Or will America and its allies hit Iran? I saw the comments on CENTCOM's X handle demanding that the US sink the Behshad. For those of you who haven't heard about this infamous vessel, think of the Behshad as Iran's outpost in the Bab el-Mandeb. It is apparently a spy ship. The Behshad has been in the high seas since 2021, and it has mostly been stationary. It has not moved. Supply vessels regularly visit the Behshad, but what happens on board this ship, no one knows. Is this ship helping the Houthis in their attack? Is it identifying the vessels for the Houthis to attack? Is it providing other intelligence to help Houthis in their war at sea? We simply don't know. What we do know is that the Behshad is being guarded by the Iranian Navy. Following the death of 3 American soldiers in the drone attack on Tower 22, there was a buzz that Washington may retaliate by bombing the Behshad. Iran warned America against touching its ship. The rest is history. So will the Behshad become a target now that stakes have been raised? Here's what the US State Department spokesperson Matthew Miller is saying. Let me quote him. The US will continue to hold the Houthis accountable, unfolding in Gaza in a few minutes from now. You see, anything short of a ceasefire in Gaza will not be able to douse the blaze at sea. And until that happens, commercial vehicles and innocent sailors will remain vulnerable. From the very beginning of this war at sea, since the time the MV Leela Norfolk sent out a distress signal in the first week of January, it is India that has been repeatedly coming to the help of the ships and sailors who are caught in the crossfire at sea. The Indian Navy has been carrying out one rescue operation after another. It has been displaying courage and exemplary calm. Earlier this week, India helped the MSC Sky II. The ship was targeted by the Houthis on Monday as it was sailing from Singapore to Djibouti. The vessel caught fire. There were 23 personnel on board, Iranians. The Indian Navy is carrying out these daring missions without flexing its muscle, with zero vested interest, without any high-handedness. The Indian Navy is acting as per the established SOPs. It is following protocol. And time and again, India is proving to be the only reliable security provider in the dangerous waters. Let's now shift our gaze to Gaza. Today it will be 5 months since the Israel-Hamas war began. Let's begin by talking about the scenes of Gaza. If you look at Gaza today, you wouldn't recognize it. You wouldn't know one neighborhood or alley from another. You'll see weak, scrawny children looking towards the skies, some with dread, others with hope. Because the fact is, they don't know what will fall from the skies, dinner or death. Now let's talk about the sounds of Gaza. Cries of desperation, cries of help, cries of hunger. All these horrifying sounds ring out from the enclave, and yes, most of these are cries coming from children. It's a cry every mother is all too familiar with. I know I am. It's a painful, heartbreaking cry. It's the cry every mother knows because it's the cry of a hungry child. Sadly, for the children of Gaza, their mothers are helpless because there's no food to feed these babies. Newborns and children are dying of hunger because Israel's siege, its unending rampage, has condemned the children of Gaza to death by starvation. You see, Israel has put severe restrictions on aid, including food entering the Gaza Strip. So essentials are running low. There's not much food to put on the table in Gaza as of now. The United Nations has come out with a dire warning. The body says that a widespread famine in the Gaza Strip is now inevitable. The official announcement could come as early as next week. Just imagine this: a famine in a war-battered coastal enclave of 2.3 million people. The UN estimates that of this 2.3 million people, more than a quarter are currently facing catastrophic levels of deprivation and starvation. The body says that children are malnourished and battling disease. Adults are dying from starvation. In fact, here's what the WHO chief said after the agency paid a visit to the enclave recently: that the lack of food had resulted in the deaths of 10 children. He also mentioned severe levels of malnutrition, serious shortages of food, fuel, medicines. Hospitals are all but destroyed. Meanwhile, the Muslim holy month of Ramzan begins next week. The dawn to dusk fast lasts anywhere from 12 to 17 hours. But in Gaza, families preparing for Ramzan are on the verge of famine. The children are starving daily. As food aid trickles into the enclave, there are endless queues for a fistful of flour. What about the ceasefire? Sadly, there was no breakthrough from the talks between Hamas and international mediators in the Egyptian capital. In fact, the Hamas delegation has now left Cairo. So disagreements persist, fighting continues. At a time when food and life-saving aid should be flooded into Gaza, it is merely trickling in. In the 5 months since Hamas launched a multi-pronged attack on Israel, killing at least 1,200 Israelis, Israel has retaliated. At least 30,000 Palestinians have been killed, according to Gaza's health ministry. And under Israel's iron now is Rafah, a southern city where nearly 1.5 million Palestinians have fled to. Remember, Israel has not achieved its military goals yet. Goal number 1, to destroy Hamas completely. Goal number 2, to rescue the 100+ hostages taken by Hamas on October 7th. So as far as we see it, Gaza will continue to burn. You would think the sound of crying babies would call for an immediate ceasefire, but as we've seen in this polarizing war so far, the world is becoming almost immune to these sounds. We're desensitized. We flinch at the visuals, share the posts, condemn the perpetrators of violence at our dining table, and that's that. We then go about our daily lives as if nothing has happened. What about those with power? The United States, for instance. Well, US President Joe Biden has called on Hamas to accept a ceasefire deal before Ramzan begins. That's it. You see, it's all a well-rehearsed routine by now, a daily update in the death toll, a dire warning from the United Nations, and of course, condemnation from Big Brother, the United States. But Gaza continues to burn, and its children continue to scream in hunger. Since I mentioned the US president, let me ask you this. Is America secretly supporting Israel's attack on Gaza? Well, if reports are to go by, Biden wants to keep the US's arms deal with Israel private, while pretending the White House cares about Palestinian lives in Gaza in public. Reports say the US has quietly approved and delivered more than 100 weapon sales to Israel since the start of the war in Gaza. These weapons include precision-guided munitions, small diameter bombs, bunker busters, small arms, and other lethal aid. I'm talking about bombs. I'm talking about a massive transfer of firepower from America to Israel. Firepower that Israel uses to unleash hell on earth in Gaza. It blows the lid off the lies that Americans are selling to the world, This triple-digit figure, which has not been previously reported, is the latest indication of America's extensive involvement in the 5-month war. US officials and lawmakers may be talking tough on Israel, but it continues to aid its war effort in Gaza. As I mentioned, this figure was not previously known. US officials recently informed members of Congress about this in a classified briefing. Now, you may be wondering, how does foreign aid like this go unnoticed by the US legislative branch? It's because of a loophole in the system. You see, the Biden administration is not required to disclose the sales that are below a set dollar amount. In this case, the foreign military sale, also known as FMS, was processed without any public debate, only because each fell under a specific dollar amount. Simply put, the president's office didn't need an approval from Congress because each transaction was under the dollar amount, and this is why the arms transfer escaped congressional oversight. You see, the US Arms Export Control Act makes some significant exceptions for arms sales to America's close allies. This is a limit. There is a limit of $25 million for major defense equipment, which are seen as big-ticket items. But the limit for other defense articles, like bombs, is $100 million. This means that the president's office could approve and deliver weapons to Israel without needing an approval from Congress. It means that the Biden administration took advantage of a loophole in the system to keep the arms sales to Israel under wraps. Is it wrong? Technically, no. The US law authorizes the president to do that. Biden is doing what his predecessor, Donald Trump, did. Between 2017 and 2019, the Trump administration made more than 4,000 such below-threshold arm transfers to Saudi Arabia and the UAE. But is this problematic? Absolutely. It is an extremely problematic way to avoid accountability. You see, this isn't about law, it's about moral duty. Here is a country that has been accused of genocide in Gaza. We have just told you how children in Gaza are dying of hunger. It's all because of Israel's war on unarmed civilians in Gaza. Since the war broke out, only 2 approved foreign military sales to Israel have been made public by the Biden administration. One was a $106 million sale of tank ammunition, and the other was a $147.5 million sale of components needed to make 155mm shells. When they were made public, the arms sale had invited public scrutiny because the Biden administration had bypassed Congress to approve the sales under emergency authority. Altogether, that's a lot of weapons being sent to Israel over a very short span of time. It really suggests that the Israeli war effort would not be sustainable without this level of American support. The US State Department says that officials have engaged Congress on arms transfers more than 200 times since the war broke out. Which brings me back to my original point. Just because something is not technically wrong doesn't mean that it is the right thing to do. If American weapons are directly being used to inflict harm on innocent, unarmed civilians, isn't it America's duty to stop it? What measures is the Biden administration taking to ensure that Israel is not using American help to harm civilians? I ask this because on one hand, Biden talks about peace, about safeguarding Palestinian lives. On the other hand, the Biden administration is flooding arms into Israel. The lack of publicly available information about US arms sales to Israel leaves a lot of room for speculation and questioning. Israel won't reveal any details about its weapons usage or shortfall, if any. But reports say that in the first week of the war, Israel had already dropped 6,000 bombs on Gaza. What is at once clear is that the US is deeply involved in Israel's war on Gaza. The US may not be pulling the trigger, but it sure is loading the gun. If the US is serious about a ceasefire, it should stop this right away. Meanwhile, an Indian has died miles away from his home on the Ukrainian battlefield. Yes, you heard me right. In the Ukraine war. His name was Mohammad Afsan. He was from the South Indian state of Telangana. The Indian embassy in Russia has confirmed his death. It is trying to send Afsan's remains back home. How did this man meet this tragic fate? What business did he have on Russian front lines? Absolutely none. He was tricked into going there. All this man wanted was a well-paying job. He was promised one, but by a fraudster. He was just one of at least 20 people who were duped into fighting Russia's war. Most of them belong to states like Telangana, Gujarat, Karnataka, Uttar Pradesh and more. This is the second such death this year, at least that we know of so far. Just last month, another Indian from Gujarat was also killed. His name was Hemal Ashwin Bhai Mangukia. He was merely 23 years old. He was hired as a security helper by the Russian army. Little did he know that he will have to pay with his life. He was killed in a Ukrainian airstrike on February 21st in the Donetsk region. Mangukia wasn't the only Indian there. There were 3 others who hid inside trenches and survived the missile strike. Reports say one of them shared a photograph of Mangukia's body. He had multiple injuries on his face and skull. His clothes were soaked in blood as his lifeless body lay on a heap of other bodies. What was his fault? These unsuspecting men unfortunately fell prey to killer agents. Agents looking to serve their own greed, even at the cost of pushing civilians into a deadly war zone. So who are these killer agents? Well, much remains unknown. But allegedly, one of them is a Dubai-based agent named Faisal Khan. He runs a YouTube channel called Baba Vlogs. The man has more than 300,000 subscribers. In fact, in one of his videos, Khan boasted that he had 7 passports, even showed them as proof. He then said that he is working with the Russian army and 7 people have received work permits for the country. How did he trap these people? By promising them high-paying jobs as security guards, army helpers and several other government roles in Russia. In return, he asked for 3 lakh rupees from each of them. After taking their money, he did fly his victims to Russia, but only to trick them into signing some documents in Russian and pushing them into the war. Some were given basic weapons training and then thrown into the battlefield around Ukrainian cities like Kharkiv, Donetsk and Mariupol. You see, all this is a part of an elaborate scam plaguing multiple states of India. Just a few days ago, 7 men from Punjab and Haryana also appealed to the Indian government for help. One of them was as young as 19. He recorded a video explaining his plight. In the clip, he said that he and the other 6 have been handed over to Russian authorities. They were forced to sign documents and then given a choice to fight against Russia or to serve 10 years in a Russian prison. Last month, reports came that 4 Indians had been duped by recruiters into joining the Wagner group. One of them is Mohammed Sufyan. He's 22 years old and hails from Telangana. The other 3 are from Karnataka. These boys rather, sent an SOS to their families. They also reported being stranded in Russia and being forced to join the army to fight the war. The scam has been going on for long enough. There have been 2 deaths. There are chances that there will be more. While the official figure of Indians trapped in Russia is 20, some reports are putting it at 100. 100 Indian men brutally being thrown into a war zone. So what is the Indian government doing? The job scam has caught everyone's attention. Several state authorities alerted the Ministry of External Affairs about it. The MEA says that it is strongly taking up each and every such case brought to its attention with the Russian authorities. It also says that several Indians have already been saved and swift measures are being taken to discharge the others. But the situation is grave. Every day that goes by risks the lives of Indian civilians in a war that has nothing to do with them.
पाकिस्तान कम्युनिस्ट पार्टी याद रखा होता है wants to question where is the law.
On tonight's edition of Gravitas Snapshot, we will tell you the story of Pakistan's first Sikh minister. His name is Ramesh Singh Arora, and he has made history. For the first time, a member of the minority Sikh community took oath as a minister in Pakistan's Punjab province. Now Arora's appointment is a big deal, but before I tell you why, here's all you need to know about him. Ramesh Singh Arora, born in the city of Nakana Sahib in 1974, Arora has a postgraduate degree in entrepreneurship. He worked for the World Bank's poverty reduction program in Pakistan before joining politics. In an interview with an Indian newspaper, Arora had said that his family chose to stay back in Pakistan instead of moving to India after partition. He says his grandfather took the decision upon the insistence of his dear friend. Arora's political career spans over a decade. He has been an MP 3 times before, but this is the first time that he has been given a ministerial portfolio. In 2008, he founded the Mojaz Foundation. It works to uplift the underprivileged and the poor in Pakistan. In 2013, Arora was elected as a member of the Provincial Assembly of Punjab. He was then re-elected 7 years later after a seat reserved for non-Muslims fell vacant due to the death of a member. Between 2014 and 2017, he served as chairman of the Standing Committee on Commerce and Investment. He was also the chairman of the Standing Committee on Human Rights and Minorities Affairs from 2017 up until 2018. Arora is known for his staunch advocacy for Sikh rights in the country. In fact, in 2016, he was awarded the National Human Rights Award for his activism. He also played a big role in the passage of the Punjab Sikh Anand Karaj Marriage Act 2018 in Pakistan. In the recently held Pak election, Arora was re-elected as an MP from Narowal, his hometown, where Gurdwara Sri Kartarpur Sahib, the final resting place of Sikhism's founder Guru Nanak, is located. Last year, he was also appointed as the ambassador-at-large for the Kartarpur corridor, a visa-free border crossing and religious corridor that connects Pakistan with India. In the same interview with an Indian daily, Arora said that it was unfortunate that over 4 years since the launch of the Kartarpur corridor, the response had been lukewarm. He vowed to take all possible steps to encourage more people from India to visit Kartarpur via this corridor. Arora was recently also elected as the chief of the Pakistan Sikh Gurdwara Parbandhak Committee. This week, in fact, he joined the cabinet of the recently sworn-in PMLN Chief Minister Maryam Nawaz Sharif. Reports say that Arora is likely to get the Minority Affairs portfolio, and this is a much-needed political representation in Pakistan. You see, in Pakistan, Sikhs are a minority community. Around 17,000 to 20,000 Sikhs and more than 20 lakh Hindus currently live in Pakistan. Here, religious minorities like Sikhs, Hindus and Christians often face an existential crisis. They face social, economic and cultural discrimination. They constantly live in the fear of being targeted by militant organizations, land mafias and Islamist outfits. So when it comes to political participation, the state of affairs is dismal. Arora promises to work not only for the safety and well-being of Sikhs, but also for all minorities, including Hindus and Christians. This is why Ramesh Singh Arora's appointment matters. After all, political representation is the first step towards ensuring minority well-being. Let's move on now. The Chinese not only have their eyes and ears everywhere, they also steal. From trade secrets to secret tech, everything is on their radar. And what better place to steal American tech than in Silicon Valley? That is why Google became a target. It has found that one of its software engineers had been betraying the company. His name is Lin Wei Ding. He's a Chinese national. Google hired him back in 2019. He was tasked with developing an AI software. Little did Google know its employee would use the tech for selfish reasons, worse yet, to serve America's enemy, China. As you can see, the patriotism runs deep. But for what? Can China save him? Because Ding now faces charges of stealing trade secrets about artificial intelligence. And no small number, but 500 confidential files. He also allegedly worked for 2 Chinese companies, all without informing its employer, Google. If convicted, Ding faces up to 10 years in prison and $250,000 in fines on each count. So what exactly did Ding steal? It was information relating to the infrastructure of Google's supercomputing data centers. These very data centers are used to host and train large AI models. How did he steal it? By uploading information stored in Google's network to a personal Google account. This reportedly began in May 2022. According to the indictment, these unethical uploads continued periodically for over a year. In the meantime, Ding took up another job in his homeland, China. He allegedly spent months working for a startup called Beijing Rongshu Lianji Technology. He wasn't just a regular employee there, but the chief technology officer. He was offered nearly $15,000 every month for the job. And it turns out the dollars only added to his greed and ambition. Soon he started a tech firm of his own, again without Google's knowledge. The firm was called Shanghai Zishuan Technology. It focused on AI and machine learning. Ding worked as its CEO. Can you even imagine? The ex-Google employee started his own company, made himself its chief executive officer, and all of this happened in May last year. Ding was very much a Google employee at the time, yet it never once occurred to him to disclose all of this. He even applied to a China-based organization to help develop this business. He made a case for his firm at an investor conference in China. All of this was happening under Google's nose, based on its own tech secrets. But Google finally caught up. It sensed something suspicious had been happening. The search engine giant flagged Ding for trying to upload more files to his personal computer. All of this happening while Ding was still in China. But the tech thief told Google's investigator some half-baked lies. He said it would use the files as a proof to show others that he worked for Google, as if a company ID card wouldn't have done the job. After returning to the US, Mr. Ding tried to flee for good. He bought a one-way ticket from San Francisco to Beijing and put down his papers in December. Days later, Google once again became suspicious. It searched for his activity history only to come across the unauthorized uploads. Yes, it took Google well over a year to find out that it was being cheated by one of its own. It tells you a lot about the tech giant's security standards, doesn't it? Finally, when it stumbled upon evidence, Google alerted the authorities. US Attorney General says that it is a matter of national security. In that case, the US should be better prepared, and this incident should serve as a wake-up call. Moving on, 6 Indian nationals have been arrested at an airport in Bangkok on charges of attempting smuggling of 87 protected animals. The suspects have also been charged with animal disease control and fishery violations and customs avoidance. They face a maximum of 10 years in Thai jail if and when found guilty. Here's more.
29 lizards, 21 snakes, 15 birds, 7 monitor lizards, 4 iguanas, 2 squirrels, 2 bats, a rat, a fishing cat, some frogs, and a red panda. We are not listing what we saw in the zoo today. These were some of the creatures found in an airport luggage in Bangkok's Suvarnabhumi Airport. Are you shocked? Listen to the list again. A red panda, a monkey, a Sulawesi bear couscous, lizards, snakes, birds, monitor lizards, iguanas, squirrels, frogs, bats, a rat, a fishing cat. How's that? 6 Indians were trying to smuggle these creatures. They were all packed in bags and suitcases and check-in on a Thai Airways plane from Bangkok to Mumbai. Custom officials found the luggage fishy, so they decided to run a scan. And guess what they found? A red panda picking out of a wicker basket, a monkey trapped in a plastic box, a Sulawesi bear taped inside another basket. There were snakes coiled together in cloth bags, and lizards were held in plastic tubs. A parrot was shot in a plastic container with air holes crudely drilled in the lid. Imagine that. So what happened next? All the 6 men were arrested. You see, all of these creatures come under the protected list. Local media reports that the Indian smugglers have been charged with wildlife smuggling, animal disease control, and also fishery violations. Thailand is a major transit hub for wildlife smugglers. While most of the trade ends in China and Vietnam, a market for illicit flora and fauna has been growing in India too. Bureau Report. WION. World is One.
March 8th, tomorrow will be marked as International Women's Day, reveals that the perceived gender pay gap at a pan-India level stands at 23% among salaried women. Meanwhile, perceived gender bias stands at 16%. Also, the perception of the gender gap in pay varies from region to region. For instance, at least 43% of salaried women in the national capital of New Delhi reported a gender pay gap. In the eastern city of Kolkata, only 4% did so. When it comes to negotiating salaries, across the country, 42% of women said they face difficulty while negotiating their salaries. But in Kolkata, 96% of women said they face no obstacles when negotiating salaries. Going by this data, women face more challenges in North India than in East or South India. These reported a higher perception of gender pay gap, whereas 18% semi-affluent women reported gender pay gap. It seems the higher you go on the corporate ladder, the more bias you face at the workplace. And data corroborates that. While 30% of affluent women said that they experienced gender bias, only 12% of semi-affluent women had the same experience. But it's not just a matter of equal pay. Women in India also want financial stability. But as the situation stands today, most women in India are worried about their financial independence. A study by one financial education company reveals that while Indian women are becoming more and more economically independent, financial security and independence remain a distant dream. At least 66% of women said they are not confident if all their financial goals would be met. Now, what does that tell you? Because this tells us that women in India continue to face several challenges. Inequality takes several shapes and forms. At workplaces, the disparity is visible when there is a different working environment for men and women. When the wages are not equal, when there is undignified treatment, when there is sexual harassment. At work and outside of work, it is important to create a world where every woman can confidently pursue her dreams, her aspirations. Creating an environment where all women feel empowered to negotiate for a better pay, to thrive in whatever role she is assigned, this is key to unlocking innovation as well as organizational success. Hear me out. This is a fact. Studies by Harvard Business Review have shown that companies with more women in senior positions tend to be more profitable and more socially responsible. Not only that, companies where women lead also offer safer, higher quality customer experience. Perhaps this can be a wake-up call for all employers. Do better. Make good on your promise of equal treatment. Be open to learning the nuances of gender discrimination. Take a nuanced look at gender biases. Encourage women to negotiate for better pay and benefits. Provide them with better opportunities. Let them take up leadership positions. This will not only help break the cycle of gender discrimination, it will also help your organization be more profitable. After all, everyone wins with more women in the leadership. Before I wrap tonight's show, here's a question. How many of you are obsessed with clear skin? Quite a lot of you, I'm guessing. It's not like you have much option in the Instagram era. Every filter today nudges you to look picture perfect. Every second influencer claims to know the secret to looking perfect. Every brand is selling you a promise of glass skin. And in this quest for perfect clear skin, where is the space for acne and acne marks? Well, they must be dealt with priority, and no, they cannot be let to fade naturally. Enter acne treatment creams. I'm sure most of you have one in your skincare stand. It is one of the many products in your PM or night skincare routine. Am I right? What if I told you that your acne treatment cream could cause cancer? High levels of cancer-causing chemicals have been found in these treatment creams. Let me tell you what's happened. Earlier this week, an independent lab in the US filed a petition with the US Food and Drug Administration. It said there were high levels of benzene in creams promising to fade acne marks. What's benzene? It is a component of gasoline and tobacco smoke. Benzene is also a carcinogen. It can cause cancer. High amounts of benzene can cause leukemia. It is a cancer of the blood cell. The US FDA says up to 2 parts per million of benzene is safe, 2 parts per million. But the investigating lab found up to 9 times that amount in some treatment products. These are things you're putting on your faces, 9 times the safe limit. That's not it. Upon heating, benzene levels jumped significantly. This was not just in the acne treatment creams, but also in acne treatment gels, lotions, face washes. The lab has called out a few brands. The most popular among them is Clinique. It's a favorite among the skinfluencers. Target's Up and Up cream too has been branded dangerous, along with acne treatment creams from Clearasil, Proactive, Walgreens. Now, a lot of you may not have a Target in your city, and you don't need to have one because these killer creams will make their way to your bathroom shelf. In a world where international products are so easily available and widely replicable, a failed lab test in the US should be a wake-up call for you, irrespective of where you are watching us from tonight. So what should you do? Find safer creams? Well, I cannot stop you, but if you ask me, I would suggest let go of that acne treatment product altogether. Dear women, men, young girls and boys, acne is normal. It's also normal to have acne marks. Acne is common. Everyone gets acne. And it especially is normal among teenagers and young adults. There is nothing to be embarrassed about. Acne is not a sign of unhealthy skin. It says nothing about your skin hygiene either. It is a result of your hair follicles getting clogged, sometimes a result from excess oil production in the pores or from the buildup of dead skin cells in the pore. From hormonal changes, an increase in androgens can lead to acne too. Stress is another factor. Pollution, high humidity, I can go on. My point is, acne is common. Acne marks are common too. They fade with time. And if they don't, your doctor will know how best to treat it. Seek your doctor's advice instead of an influencer. If acne is troubling you or coming in the way of your self-esteem, you don't need to put this pressure on yourself to single-handedly wage a war on acne and in the process fall for scam ads promising a clear skin. You see, brands out there are waiting to make big bucks from this very insecurity of yours. Sample this. In 2022, the global acne treatment market was valued at $9.39 billion US. By 2030, the same market is expected to reach $13.76 billion USD. Companies are getting richer by selling you killer cosmetics. So I'll just say this, embrace your skin. Be very, very careful about what you add to your skincare routine. A trial unfolding this week in the UK centres around the biggest open question in the cryptocurrency world. Who is the creator of Bitcoin? This becomes an important question given that Bitcoin is soaring in popularity. In fact, the cryptocurrency has reached a new all-time high of $69,000. Understand that the UK trial is currently tackling the claims of Craig Wright, who declared himself the creator of Bitcoin. Wright is an Australian computer scientist who had testified in the High Court that he was the person behind Satoshi Nakamoto. Satoshi Nakamoto is a false name used to conceal the identity of the person who invented Bitcoin. The Satoshi Trial, also called Copa versus Wright, primarily focuses on a multi-billion-dollar dispute over Bitcoin's ownership and intellectual property rights. Copa, which stands for Crypto Open Patent Alliance, is a non-profit group of digital and cryptocurrency businesses. Craig Wright's involvement in the trial led to a dramatic turn when Copa attempted to disprove him. According to the attorney representing Copa, Wright's claim to be Satoshi is a lie founded on an elaborate false narrative backed by forgery of documents on an industrial scale. So who exactly is Satoshi Nakamoto? Despite extensive investigations, the true identity of Nakamoto remains difficult to track down. Numerous individuals, including computer scientists, economists, have been speculated to be Satoshi. However, conclusive evidence regarding the creator's identity is yet to come to light. And with that, it's a wrap on tonight's Gravitas. Thanks for watching with me, Priyanka Sharma, leaving you with Gravitas Images.
figurativo, donde predominan sobre todo las formas geométricas.
Chamado envolvendo a queda de aeronave no aeroporto da Pampulha, em Belo Horizonte. Nossos militares que trabalham ao lado do aeroporto